Josette Souza. She believes that art can heal, and her mission in life is to help creatives, particularly artists, filmmakers, and journalists, use their talent to solve problems in the world. Josette is currently the marketing manager at the American Press Institute and has previously worked for the American Alliance of Museums and Everyday Feminism. In her free time, she runs a thriving freelance business, volunteers at Arlington Independent Media, and competes internationally in Latin dance. Take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much, Deb. So, hi everyone. We are here to talk about marketing for creatives. Okay, I think I got muted. So, okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Let's see. Okay, great. So, so we're here to talk about marketing for creatives in particular. I define a creative as anyone who is not only just an artist, but who is creative in the way they think or the ways that they do things. So you can be a creative, you can be a painter and be creative, and you can be a teacher and be creative. You can be a bridge builder, an engineer, and be creative. So this is a little bit more skewed towards artists because I know that that's the audience that we have today, but just know that it can be anyone and that everyone is creative in some way. So we have here a little bit about me. My name is Josette. It's very nice to meet you. I'm a dancer first and foremost in my heart of hearts. It's what I love. It's the thing that kind of sustains me and keeps me going and brings me so much joy. I can't even begin to describe it. It would take a whole lifetime to do that. I actually have my dance coach here in the audience who is the love of my life and someone who has essentially helped me become the person I am today. So dance is really big to me. And it's what I call my part-time job that I pay for. But my full-time job is as a marketer. I've worked for a number of different kind of cultural and creative orgs, and I'm now currently at the American Press Institute, which I just got recently, and I'm really excited to explore that, that industry of journalism and news and writing. I'm also a traveler, a lover of history, and a freelancer. I'm happy to go into any of those details, but we're gonna keep on going. So why are we here today? First and foremost, I think marketing is essential, and I think marketing is particularly essential for creative people. What is marketing exactly? So I have a particular definition. You'll see all kinds of definitions all over. For me, it's about connecting people to the resources that they need and nothing more and nothing less. So marketing is not, or does not have to be, slimy, right? So a lot of people have a sort of bad taste in their mouth when it comes to marketing. They think it's about making people feel bad or creating problems that then the product, magically solves and you have to have it, right? But for me, it's not about that. And in my opinion, I think that we have enough problems in the world. We don't need to invent any. There's a lot to be solved. I also know that as artists or as creative or expressors, a lot of us are really good communicators. And I want to make the distinction that marketing is not about communications. Communications are sort of the instructions for your product and service, whereas marketing is identifying the problem you are solving and the audience you're solving it for. And that's a really big difference, right? So you can have, for example, I say communications are the content of your novel and marketing is the dust jacket, right? So a lot of us are really, really good at writing that novel, of building that world. And it's obviously a novel is a metaphor here. It can be any type of art or offering, but you write the characters, you create the world, you make these beautiful sentences that people get lost in. But that only happens and they only engage with that once they already bought the book, right? So that's the content of the offering. The marketing is the dust jacket. It's the cover art. It's the blurbs on the back. It's the artist bio. Any sort of material surrounding the offering that draws people in and says, hey, this is something worth checking out. So I like to make that distinction because a lot of us are really fantastic communicators and not all of us have the skills or experiences with marketing. The other thing that marketing is not, or doesn't have to be, is optional. So if your offering doesn't help anyone, it won't be successful, right? Because we are called as artists or creatives to do something in the world. So if it doesn't do anything or no one's able to use it, that's not taking it to its fullest capacity, right? And if you don't tell people, it won't help anyone. So in the end, marketing is absolutely essential. It's not, I think a lot of people leave it sort of a last minute thing, or they kind of put it off, or they think they can just kind of put something together really quickly. But you'll see that, you know, the more you get into it, that the marketing is actually central to the product that you're offering. If you can't get into people's hands, it can't do the work that it's trying to do. Okay. Why you need marketing, AKA the biggest obstacles that artists face. And again, I use artists kind of metaphorically here, not just visual arts, performing arts, but you could be a creative or artistic person in any facet of life. So I truly believe that your art exists for a reason and that you are here to do something, right? So marketing invites you to get clear on your what and your why so that you can serve the people that you're meant to. I also truly believe, absolutely, with all my heart, that you deserve to be paid for your work. Not all payment is monetary, and there's a lot of conversations around the commercialization of art. But whatever your goals are for your work, you deserve to be nourished in return. Whether that's money, time that people, investment, relationships, or credit. People saying this is your art, or this is where that inspiration came from. If they create something kind of derivative of yours, right? You deserve to have your name and your work recognized, right? And marketing can help do that. And then this is one of my favorites, but if you build it, they will come is not serving you. I don't really know where that framework came from. I know it's a film or something that uses it, but if you build it, they will come, in my experience, has been the prevailing notion of artists and creatives, because building it is what we're here to do, right? So you want to write that novel, you want to write that symphony, you want to dance that piece or choreograph that piece. But that's actually only half the battle. The other half is the story that you tell about it. Because if you don't tell your own story, it will be told for you. And it's really important as artists and creatives to tell your story and to get your voice out there, because you can't control how people are going to take your art or your work and kind of run with it or analyze it or respond to it. But you have control over your story and how you want it to be told. And that's why marketing can be so important. So I say here, your art is the world, so give people a map. And that's what marketing is, right? You can build this world, but help people navigate themselves within it. And that's exactly what marketing does. Okay, so we are going to jump into what I call the anatomy of a marketing campaign. So I joked here and said, you've got mail/options. So not everything has to be mail or even email, but here are some of the types of things that go into building a campaign. We have a mass email that goes to everyone on your list. That can include things like store-wide sales, holiday offerings, major launches that you want absolutely everyone in your circle to know about. Those are sort of examples of things that you would want to send to everyone. But I would say the majority of your marketing should always be targeted, actually, which is when you send a message to a specific segment of your audience. For example, women living in the US South who opened but did not click 3 of your last emails. That's a very specific, and we can get way more specific than that. But, and I like to, as a marketer, one of my favorite kind of ways to be creative as a marketer is getting really creative with this targeting. Because you'll see as you get into it, the more targeted you become, the more you're able to move people to action, right? So if someone is a woman living in the US South who's open but didn't click your last emails, what does that tell you? It tells you that they're interested, right? Because they opened it, but they haven't taken action. It tells you that they've been with you for a little bit. The last 3 emails, depending on how many you send, most people send probably at most about twice a week. So they've been, around, but they haven't opened it. That you can have all kinds of, demographic assumptions based on what women in the US South want, and that's a whole separate field of study. So you can, using those things, you can estimate what they want and what works for them and send them an email, and then continuously test it and use the data and analyze it and tweak it. So if you send an email and it works really well, like the open rate is really large, but nobody's clicking on it, something's not working, or vice versa. If only a few people opened it, but every single person clicked, that tells you something also. So the more targeted you can get, the more you can understand your audience and identify what their needs and behaviors are. Moving on, we have organic social media. This includes in-feed posts, stories, comments. So, when you comment on your own or other people's content, that counts. That can be marketing in and of itself. Groups such as on LinkedIn and Facebook. Non-paid guest posts on other people's social media accounts, such as takeovers. I'm sure you've all seen on Instagram, an individual take over a museum's Instagram or a fashion brand's Instagram or something like that. That itself is organic because you're just creating the content. You're not paying for it. And in fact, you actually might be getting paid. It depends on the situation. But you're organically creating it outside of these platforms, ad segments, essentially. So in addition to organic, you have paid social, and this is where you purchase you buy the views of your own audience and those of people that you identify. You can also have agreements specifically with people. So you can say, hey, friend who has 10K followers on Instagram, I will pay you to talk about my link or share a story promoting my offering. That is also paid social media, even though you're not going straight through the platforms like segmentation options. You can also say, unfortunately right now, Facebook and Instagram and these platforms, they basically keep your own audience from you. So anytime, and I remember the day this changed, it was in 2015 was one of the biggest changes in the algorithm around this. But before then, you would post and, maybe 80% of your audience would see it. And, from there, maybe 20% would buy, and then, it would kind of go down from there. And because they knew access to the audience is the number one thing that people want on social media, they put that behind a paywall. And they said, okay, when you post, you only reach now 20% of your audience. And if you want to reach that other 80%, you have to pay us per 1,000 people or, something like that. And so you actually, unfortunately, often have to pay to reach your own audience that you've already connected with, which is one of the reasons, and we'll get to this in a minute, having a list is so important, because you control that list. But right now in social media, if you have 100 followers, maybe 20 of them might see it, right? So you can actually, pay $30 and get, maybe another 10% of your audience. And it might actually make the difference in your sales. So it might be worth it for you. If you have a larger budget, it will be even more worth it. And when you do paid social media, you can actually get really granular. So if I'm a dancer and I'm offering, I don't know, a special, discount on shoes, and I have this like shoe warehouse that I work with, they can pay me as like an influencer to show my audience, and then anyone who likes my post, anyone who likes my friends' pages as well, you can target people through those ways. So that company then expands their reach even beyond their own social media. The people that they're targeting, like me or like my friends, page, and not the original companies, but they can benefit from it because they worked with us and they had access to our audiences. You also have in-house ads and stories. These are generally graphics and text that you include in your own newspaper, web pages, email signatures, etc., that you already have in use. So I highly recommend, if you are a creative person with a website or social media, that you create some kind of newsletter where it can be monthly, it can be up to weekly if you'd like. Some people even have daily ones, depending on just what you're offering. And you can use this to just let people know that you exist and that, like, what are things that you're reading? Like, let's say you're a painter and you're reading, really interesting books or articles or watching videos on YouTube about painting. So share those, right? Like, people are interested. If they like your art, they might be interested in knowing what kind of went behind it. If you're a photographer, you know, what are your top, you know, few tips about how to start photography? Put that in a newsletter, right? And from there, people get used to the newsletter. They get excited about the newsletter. They know when to expect it, and you stay front of mind. And when you have a special offer, you have a launch, you have a sale, you have something that you want to showcase, you can create your own ad in your newsletter that isn't the whole newsletter, but it's a piece of the newsletter. You can do this with just a picture, or you can do a whole story. So maybe you share, you know, your top 10 links from your whole newsletter could be my top 10 links from the internet every month. And one of those links on one of those, you know, months could be your product. And people are more likely to be engaged with it if they're very engaged with your newsletter, because they know you've been giving them value this entire time, not just because you're a fantastic artist, which they're excited about, but because you're giving them stories or pictures. If you're a photographer, you can give stock photos, you know, things like that, that are free and easy to build a relationship with. Because when you appear in someone's you know, inbox once a month, they're going to remember you once it's time for, you know, holiday gift buying, or, you know, birthdays are coming up, something like that. You'll be top of mind more readily than if you only post on social media and they don't see your post because the algorithm, you know, is playing games with you. So the last sort of, you know, option that I have here is content marketing, which is a little bit similar to promoting something in the newsletter, but slightly different. This is where you create an article that you write on your own or via someone else's publication, whether it's a blog or, you know, Washington Post or something, like an editorial, that provides value in and of itself, that also promotes your offering. So for example, a lot of people, when I take the photography, for example, you know, a lot of people have an iPhone or a smartphone of some kind, and they want to know how to take it to the next level. So you can write a whole post about how you know, using, you know, a phone that many people might have access to, and creating like crazy beautiful stuff with it and teaching people how they did it. And at the end you say, by the way, here's a link to my prints or something like that. And you can share your work vis-a-vis this article. This type of marketing has been on the rise, as we've all seen in the last several years, and it's shown to be a lot more effective than just saying, hey, I'm a great photographer, please buy my stuff. It's like, hey, I'm a great photographer, and here's how I can help you become a better photographer, check out my stuff. So it sort of sandwiches that in, and it helps people trust you. It builds credibility and authority, and it brings people sort of to a place where they want to buy. Okay, so I suggest that you pick 3 and you go from there. You don't have to do all of these, and in fact, you shouldn't try to. A good campaign is about 70% what you say and to whom, and about 30% how you get there. And I want to remind people that the world is vast, and that these are only some of the things that you can do. There's actually so many more ways to get your stuff out there, and everyone is going to be different, and there's going to be something for everyone. So I always suggest to people, sometimes artists get a little bit overwhelmed with marketing because it's not their, you know, their primary focus. But I tell people, go with whatever feels good and exciting to you. Just own your process. If you only want to do, you know, social media, then only do social media. You don't have to have an email list if you don't want to. You don't have to do anything that you don't want to. I'm going to go through this a little quickly because I want to make sure we have enough time for questions. And I will be happy to share the slides as well. So here's an example of an actual campaign that I did. This was a mass email to non-members, asking people to donate to the Giving Tuesday campaign from last year that supported scholars, particularly scholars of color and LGBTQ folks in this particular industry. So I did this was actually a really simple campaign. It was our most underperforming campaign in the whole organization. So I took it on because I wanted to make a difference, and there was not a lot of budget for it because it wasn't something that a lot of people were committed to. And so it didn't make sense to spend, you know, a ton of money promoting on social media if, you know, people weren't going to be, you know, excited about it. So I took it on and I said, I'll take it for free. I will have no budget for it, and I will get it to another place. So I started with a mass email to non-members of this organization. Once that email went out, I did an A/B test. So I did 2 different messages, and I saw which one performed better. And I took the better performing one and sent it to the members of the organization who were more likely to donate. So from there, we did a feature story in an existing newsletter. So same exact campaign, but obviously different graphics and different text. And this one was a more personal one. So it was one story in a newsletter that talked about a woman named Janine and why this program mattered so much to her. And then we did some organic Twitter posts using the same collateral. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. I used the same text and the same call to action and the same graphic, and I just put it in a different combination to create the organic Twitter posts. And this very small, simple campaign with absolutely zero budget had really big results. We saw a 50% increase in the number of donations and a 540% increase in the amount donated, which is insane. Which went to show me basically that it's about what you say, a lot more about how you, or where you say it, I should say, and like how much money you have to say it with. Okay, so I want to really focus right now on getting you started on a marketing plan. Now that we sort of talked about why it's important to do marketing and what marketing is not, what we went over the anatomy of a campaign and the different kinds of components, which I will also be happy to share in the slides. And so now it's, you know, we want to build one out. Well, where do you start, right? We're great, we're on board. How do we move forward? So step one is define the relationship, is my little cheeky way of saying that. But you know, as an artist, you have a relationship with your audience. So let's define it. What are you offering? Is it a product or a service or both? Is it a one-time purchase or a subscription? Or do you offer multiple different ways of interacting with your product or service? You know, is it a online course that is a one-time purchase, or is it a membership program that includes a course, but you pay on a monthly basis, right? That will help determine what you say and what you do with your marketing plan. Who is your target audience for this particular offering? What's their age, gender, location, interest, and stage of life? You know, age and gender, location are a little bit easy. Interest, it depends. It depends, you know, how you know that information. Are you guessing? Is it because, you know, you segmented it and you know that they click the most on stories about animals? So you know they love animals. A stage of life is also kind of a guessing game, but the more you segment, the more sure you can be about that answer, which is why it's so important to segment and not send every single email to every single person all the time, because you won't be able to get that information, right? So if you put something in there and you know, you realize people are really clicking on content relating to their first apartment, right? You're an artist and you create beautiful ceramics, and people, you notice that the articles about their first apartment and how to use ceramics there and what to buy for your first apartment does well, then you know your audience tends to be in that stage of life where they're starting out. So create more content around that. And what problem is your offering solving and how? So I have an example here. Bria Paints is a wonderful artist who is very, you know, big on Instagram, and you know, she sells prints, original paintings, and custom paintings. Her audience, I assume, is around, you know, is probably women of color, particularly Black women, between the ages of around 15 to 45, just based on who I was looking at in her audience, her comments, and who are into plants, yoga, and decor. And what problem is she solving? All art is solving a problem. It's not just beautiful, right? There's a reason why you're called to make it, and there's a reason why people are called to, you know, engage with it or buy it, or, you know, however they engage with your art. So for me, she was fixing my problem of I had big, blank, ugly walls or spaces in my house, and I want something beautiful to make it feel homey. I just moved into my first apartment by myself, and I'm surrounded by this blankness, and I knew that I didn't want that. It made me feel sort of, you know, confined, right? So her art brings warmth and character to my space, therefore solving that problem for me. Also, she's providing images of melanated people doing things that they're typically erased from, such as yoga, such as fine art. And this is an actual screenshot from an Instagram story that I did because I was so excited to get these prints for my new apartment that I wanted to share with the world, right? So I became then kind of like someone who's trying to promote her work because she's helping me solve a problem, right? I also have Ferocity Dance Company, which is the company that I dance with. Kat Arias is there on the left, and she sells group classes, choreo trainings, and private lessons for bachata dancing. Her audience is people between the ages of 18 to 65 and up, who have a passion for dance and sensuality in particular, which is a type of, element of dance, and want to explore those passions in a safe and family-oriented space. What problem is she solving? Well, she's creating a dance space that is truly welcoming to all people, no matter their gender, sexuality, physical ability, or size. And that is a particular offering that she's giving, because when you look at the dance world, you're not always going to get those things, right? So she's providing that through her art and through her business. And that's why I was attracted, and that's why other people are attracted. So when you identify that, you can get the right people in. And so then the next step is to put it out there, right? So now that you know kind of what problem you're solving and who you're solving it for, you need to get it out there. So I suggest just picking 3 of the elements from earlier and drafting copy for them. And sometimes you can't choose. I listed 6 out there. Sometimes you're like, well, I don't know which one to start with. So if you don't know how to choose, you can't go wrong with this suggestion, which is 1 mass email, because why not? If you're not ready to segment, don't worry about it. Do 1 mass email to everyone you know or everyone on your list. Do 3 planned social media posts, organic. You don't have to pay for this. And if you have a little bit of money, throw $30 at a social media ad. See what happens. Play around with it. Use the little, kind of creepy filters that you can do and be like, this, I want people who are, live in this area and like this thing, and, and get kind of creepy with it so you can see what works and what doesn't work. And you want to pick or make an image to go along. You always want an image, no matter what. Images are the biggest way to get people's attention. And you want to make sure it gets in front of the right audiences. So very, very brief copywriting tips include, this is a whole topic by itself, but the 2 things you always want when you're writing copy for anything, whether it's a tweet that only has 240 characters or anything else, an email or anything like that, you want a hook, which is something catchy, and you want a call to action. Anything else is optional. You want those 2 things. So in this email that I showed earlier, I said in the first top part, it says, you have the power to give someone their big break. Based on my research, I figured that was going to be a really interesting catch for people, and it really was, based on the data that I had and the assumptions that I was making. And so I had that thing to grab people's attention. I had a little blurb and then the call to action. Everything else that you want to put in, whether it's the context or the background or, why you created it, that can all go kind of underneath. That's the first part that you want people to see, because you have 20 seconds to get people's attention, even less actually. You've probably about 3 seconds, and you want to catch them as much as possible. So getting in front of the right people, well, how does that work, right? So if you have a list, use it consistently. So even if you're not selling anything right now, let's say you're taking a break and you're really like, you're a graffiti artist and, you're working on a new, giant mural and you're not ready to reveal it and you don't want to show people it, still write to your people, right? Make social media posts as much as you can. Send the 10 links that you care about this month. Use it consistently, because people are much more likely to buy from someone or show up to an event, even if you're not selling something. If you just want people to come to your opening or, anything like that, people are more likely to do it if they feel like they have a relationship with you than if you're just coming out of the woodwork saying like, hey guys, I have this new thing. You haven't heard from me in 3 years, but, I would really like you to come to my, I don't know what, party. Or this is my first time DJing and like, me as a graffiti artist, like, please come. People are more likely to do so if you have that relationship. So keep building it and segment as much as possible. If you don't have a list, you're literally, you've been making art, but you don't have a website, you don't have a MailChimp account, you don't have anything like that, you actually still have a network. So start with your personal networks, share on your personal social media with just your friends, even if it's a private account, right? Tell people, hey, I'm gonna, I started a radio show, check it out. Tell your friends who you talk to in person, whether that's Zoom in person or physically in person. Email your family members. You have a network. You're not, you're not a lone wolf kind of out there. You have a community. Let them know what you're doing, and use that to build your list and tell them, hey, could you share this on your social media? Then you're starting to reach people beyond your own immediate reach. And hashtags are really important, as we all know. So I say hashtag it out. Notice what hashtags people you follow in your industry use. There's a website called Display Purposes, which is on the screen there, that you can get a sense of other relevant hashtags. So I'm in the museum world for the last 3 years, and I know hashtag museums is important, but I didn't know hashtag like museum artist, was a thing. I didn't know hashtag, museums are not neutral. Like I might not know that hashtag right away if I'm new to the field. So you can use that website to look at relevant hashtags and see what's out there. I highly recommend that you don't use super saturated hashtags, which are ones with about 500K or more posts. It's way better to use something like DC Artists, which only has 36K. You will get seen by somebody if it's only 36K posts versus Artists on Instagram, which has 50 million posts, right? So there's actually there's almost a guarantee that you won't be seen if you use that hashtag. And I've actually started a side project Instagram that I only used maybe 2 hashtags for that were small. I got 100 followers in maybe a month's time with doing nothing but using these 2 small hashtags, which was really exciting to me. So I have a little reminder here that we all have to start somewhere. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. And getting your work in front of 10 of the right people is worth so much more than 1,000 of the wrong ones. And that never forget that you are here to make magic happen. As an artist and a creative, you're being called to create. That is your vocation. Marketing is nothing more than being clear on what that vocation is and sharing it with the people who need it. So thank you so much. If you have questions, if you want the slides, you want my monthly Marketing for Creatives newsletter, I have a bit.ly there. It's a sign up form. You can opt out anytime you want. It's bit.ly, bit.ly/MFC slides. That's Marketing for Creative Slides. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can pop in the chat really quickly and see if there are any. I know we are actually over time, but
You still have time.
Yeah, so let me know. Oh, okay, great. I would love to know if we have any questions. It looks like we have a nice group here. If you have any art that you want to promote, this chat is a great place to do it. This is a great place to start your marketing journey. You can put your website, your social media handles, anything like that in there. And yeah, so I will stick around for a little bit. I thank you all so much for coming. I am going to put also the link to the slides if you want that in the chat as well.
We're going to leave the line open for a while, but I want to thank Josette, and I want to thank the participants. And I hope that you all join us for some more activities and presentations throughout the week. So we'll leave it open for a while.
Yes, and we have so many wonderful artists in the chat too. Please feel free to reach out to people that you see there. I mean, we have dancers, we have DJs, I think we have photographers, art teachers, and the like as well. So be sure to, while you connect with people through these workshops, know that this is also expanding your network, right? If you meet one friend this whole week, you just increased your network, right? Which is fantastic. That's why we're here. So thank you to everyone who's posting links.
Teresa has a question.
Oh, wonderful.
Teresa?
Let's see. I don't see it.
I didn't type it in the chat. Sorry.
Okay. What's up?
Okay, so one thing that drives me absolutely nuts is the algorithm on Instagram. Like, I just cannot seem to get more followers. Oh, I'll get like 5, and then I'll lose like 3. And then I'm like, what did I do wrong? Like, do they hate me or something? What did I not do? Or what did I do? Instagram, yes, Instagram is so hard. So, and I've heard before, if you use the hashtags that aren't quite so ginormous, with like the millions of posts, that you're more likely to get more follows. But I think also too, I have a lack of interaction. I think that's a big deal too in the algorithm, is interacting with other accounts. But I do have a question for you. I do have a hard time developing content. So I'm in your personal opinion, like especially for, let's say, a dance event, what do you think is good content to keep the Instagram account alive and connected and still gaining followers? I was thinking about just like reaching back to like old pictures and tagging people, because tagging seems to work. People like to see themselves. But I don't know if you have any suggestions on actual content to create that incites a lot of what do you call it? Not interaction, but engagement.
Engagement. Yep.
Yeah.
So my first inclination in any campaign that I'm doing or any account that I'm working on is to ask what do people already engage with, right? So what is working? What doesn't work as much. I've seen, for example, when the pandemic first started, everyone was doing lives, right? So everyone was going live, just like chatting, sharing their everyday lives, and people loved it. They ate it up, right? Because everyone felt alone. So the thing that they wanted the most at that time was to feel connection. And so how do you feel connection? You take people along, like they would be like, oh, I'm going to the grocery store. Like, let me vlog, in my stories, my grocery store, adventures, right? And I saw repeatedly people saying, I'm so glad I'm not alone. I can't believe famous dancer X or organizer X or DJ X, has a similar life to me. We're all in this together. Then, the waves kind of changed and everybody sort of, sat into, got kind of settled into what the quarantine life was going to be. And then people were bored. So then they were looking for TikTok dances, right? So then is it creating a TikTok dance? Is it getting, putting one of those compilations together of you and your friends doing these dances and editing it and sharing that out and then tagging them as you've been doing, right? So I think the important thing is to figure out and also ask what people want. Is it right now, people are itching to be outside. So is it, a funny video of you trying to dance, in inconspicuous places outside and kind of joking and laughing about that with them and how hard it is to dance on concrete or something like that. Is it relatable content that people are looking for? Is it how-tos? Is it a challenge? Is it, this is the time I'm going to get a split. I know I've been on so many split challenges and content because, I said I might as well do something for myself, that I've been saying I'm going to do forever and ever. And so the people who did, okay, this is the wrong way to do it. This is the right way to do it. I ate that content up, right? Because that was a need that I had. So I recommend that you connect with your audience. You ask questions, you have them vote. So this week I'm going to do A or B. Which one do you want? And whatever wins, you do that, and A or B again. Because people want stuff now, more than ever. I mean, we're so, the world is so out of control essentially that our needs are constantly shifting, and we're trying to define our needs ourselves. So we can only guess so much until we really sit down with our audience. Maybe it's a focus group. Maybe you grab 2 students or 3 students from one of your past classes and you sit and you have phone conversations with them and say, what do you want right now? If I offered this, would you want that? Yes or no? Why not? It can be as simple as that, and building from there. Plateauing is real. It's part of the growth, stages. You rise, you plateau, you rise, you plateau. And I always say when I lose followers, I'm happy about it. I'm like, okay, that means that people who were not kind of here for what I have to offer have now exited. And that leaves more space and more, mental and emotional space for the ones that do. Because if you have a lot of people who are following you but aren't about what you're about, or don't have the same values, or just don't have the same interest, they're going to influence what kind of content you make, right? If everybody wants, if half of your audience wants a blue something and the other half wants a red something, but the people who want red aren't your people, but that they win out numerically, that's not serving you and that's not serving your audience, right? So that's where I would go with that.
Thank you.
I think we had, yes, thank you so much. We had a couple more questions in the chat from Precious. Are there any marketing tools you recommend over others? Business cards, postcards? Do you need to brand? Always brand. You actually have a brand. You might not have it branded, but you have a brand. So, get clear on your colors, get clear on your font, on your scheme. Are you, ephemeral? Is it beautiful kind of watercolor look? Is it, more intense, kind of modern, really strong lines, something like that. Business cards are great, but postcards are great. I've used, I can't remember them off the top of my head. They're any one of those that's very affordable and comes in cute little shapes. I forget what it's called. You actually can't go wrong if the card. It's less about what company you use, and obviously that just determines on availability and price. But you can have a very basic white card with literally just your company's name on it and your website, and that can be your branding. If your branding is about simple lines and simple everything, having a simple business card will be fine for you, because in the end, people want to remember who you are and get in touch with you. They don't care as much what your business card looks like. Okay, moving on. Do you think now is an important time to connect with others via social media? Art is elevating. Absolutely. I mean, I saw this quote that said, remember, it's the art that got us through, nothing else, right? It's the music, it's the dancing, it's the, the painting, the cooking, that's art, right? Like, that's what got us through. Everything else, it became irrelevant, essentially. So while, the stock market, people put a lot of, importance on the stock market, and it's going up and down every single day, it's losing its mind, right? In the end, that's not what's serving us, right? It's the art that is keeping us going. And so connecting to other people on social media is super important, and knowing that that's only one side of it, right? So I like to think of social media as a way to document my life and to kind of get into the same sphere as people like me, but I want to take it off social media as much as possible. Obviously right now we can't do that as much, but with Zoom, we have the ability with phone calls, with letters. I actually send postcards to my friends all over the world, and I make my own postcards. And I like to see social media as a way to introduce myself to others, or to get a top line summary of what's going on in people's lives, usually the highlights, not always, but usually, and take that offline. Be like, hey, I saw you won an award. Let me congratulate you. Tell me about your project. Oh, I saw you're opening a new exhibition. That's so exciting. What went behind that? Like, how did you come up with that? And use it to dive deeper, because that's what we need. We need depth more than anything, I think, in my opinion. Would you expand a little on what telling your story and give examples? If you're a painter, could a story be a type of art? Why you prefer one medium over another? Suggestion. Yeah, your story is whatever you want it to be. So some people thrive on sharing every detail, so that your story could be, this is the type of paint I use and why, and here's the chemistry behind it, and like I geek out over pens, so like let's geek out about pens together. It could also be kind of what I call cautious vulnerability, which is where you're working through something in your life, and you're ready to share it once you've kind of gotten over the hill of the emotions, but you want to prevent other people from going through the same thing, or you want to share what you learned from it. Your story can be as much or as little and as big as and small as you want it to be, and you can always change it. That's the other thing that I like to tell people, just because that actually stopped me for a long time. I was like, I don't know, I want to be an artist, but like I don't know what, like I'm not really particularly good, like blah blah blah. And I refused to call myself a dancer for a long time, because I just felt like, oh, I can't do a split, I can't do a pirouette, I'm not like super graceful, my hands look kind of crazy when I dance. I'm not a dancer. And then one day I was like, you know what, I am. Like, I love it. I at this point it's taken over my life, but like I can be not a dancer one day and a dancer the next day. And if I ever, decide to get into baking, or if I get into art, painting, then I can be that too. And if I change my mind, if I'm suddenly like, you know what, I never want to paint again, I'm over it, then I'm not a painter anymore. So it's changeable. And we're allowed to write the narrative exactly how we want it to be. The thing that comes with marketing is that you want to be clear about it. So when people talk about the elevator pitch, sometimes people roll their eyes, but it's actually really useful. If you can say what you do in 30 seconds, then that means you're very clear on what it is, even if it's something small. So for me, I believe art heals, and my goal is to help artists heal the world by getting their work out there. Like, obviously I do a lot more than that, right? It takes a lot more than that, but I know that that's what I'm here for, and that's what makes my heart sing and my spirit soar. So like that's what I bring to the table, and then we can talk about everything else too. Like if people ask questions, we can dive into it, but that's what I'm here for. Okay, I think we have a couple more questions. Would you talk about marketing through traditional media? Exactly. Yeah, so I actually, I purposely didn't talk about traditional media because almost my entire career has been in digital. Now I'm heading into broadcasting in a different kind of way. So that's new for me. I'm also a student of that world. But it's absolutely doable. People say the newspaper is dead. It's not. Obviously, a lot of newspapers are dying. Old, publications are going entirely digital, et cetera, et cetera. But there are stuff out there that has a lot of circulations, and there's a reason for it. It serves a need, right? So if there's eyeballs on something, you want your stuff there. You want your art there. You want your website there. You want your social media handles there. Whatever you do. I recommend people be cautious about it and smart, because it costs money. It costs a lot more money to print something than it does to send an email. But it costs money to send an email. I have my web hosting. I have my MailChimp, account. I have the graphic design that I paid for, right? It costs money. So everything costs money. But you tend to have a larger return on investment through digital. So just like my suggestion, I guess, would be find the people who are doing it well in the publications that you want. If it's a magazine, if it's New York Times, if it's, I don't know, a billboard, find somebody who's doing it the way that you like and ask them questions, reach out to them, and see how they did it and what advice that they have. Okay. I think that's everything. I'm happy to talk every day, all day. So I'm going to put my email in the chat if you have any other questions. If you want the slides, I will also put the link in there. Slides. Oops, I spelled that wrong. I'm open to any and all questions. I thank you all for the kind words that you've shared in the chat. I'm really glad that we got to share the space together. I know it was only 25-ish minutes, 30-ish minutes, but this is something I love and I have lots of ideas about. So please don't feel, worried about or hesitant to contact me. I'm happy to answer any more questions that way. And I really, really thank you all for being here. I thank Deb for putting this together and being super awesome, and enjoy the rest of the event. There's a lot of really beautiful things out there this week. So check it out.
Thank you, Josette, and thank you, participants.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you so much, Deb. You're awesome. This was really, really, really
You're
fun.
awesome. And hopefully you can find another slot. I think Theresa's still
Yes,
on.
yeah, I didn't realize we could sign up for multiple ones. And there was a question in the chat about recording. There will be a recording, I believe, on YouTube. I'll send it out. So if you email me, I can send it to you. Yay.